Today we'll be making the Blushing Beauty bracelet. On a comfortable length of thread, you're going to pick up a stop bead. You'll sew through the bead, and then you'll sew back through it going in the same direction. You'll bring it down to where you want it, and you'll want to leave 12 inches for a tail. Then you'll pick up a seed bead, a tila, a seed bead, a crystal, and a seed bead. And this is the pattern that we're going to be using. So now you'll pick up a tila, a seed bead, a crystal, a seed bead, pick up a tila, a seed bead, a crystal, a seed bead, and you're going to continue this pattern until you have 15 tilas or until you reach your desired length. Once you've reached your desired length, you're going to pick up 3 seed beads and you'll sew back through the tila going through the second hole. Then you'll pick up a seed bead, sew through your crystal, pick up a seed bead, sew through your tila, pick up a seed bead, sew through your crystal, pick up a seed bead, sew through the tila, and you'll continue this step until you reach the end of this strand. Then you'll need to make a second strand. Once you've reached the end of your strand, you're going to pick up 2 more seed beads and you're going to sew through the first seed bead and up through the tila and the next seed bead. And you're going to use these 3 seed beads whenever you add on your clasp. You're also going to use the tail. So you'll take your thread and you'll feed it up through some of your beads, And then we're going to tie a double knot, feed it through, tie a single knot, feed it through, and cut it off. And you need to make sure it's nice and tight. You'll sew up under your thread, and it makes a loop. You're going to sew through that loop. And now you're going to repeat that step. Sew up under your thread and sew through your loop. And now you'll go up through some more of your beads. And you're going to make a half hitch or a single knot. Sew up under your thread. Sew through your loop. And then you want to sew away from your knot. And now you can cut off this piece of thread so it won't be in your way. You're going to do the same step to the second strand. So now you've made two strands identical, and you're going to need to cut a new piece of fire line. And you'll take one of your strands and you'll sew up through the bottom tila, sew up through the seed bead, and then you'll pick up 4 seed beads, and you're going to go across to your second strand and sew up through the seed bead above the crystal. Sew through the tila. And then you'll sew up through the next seed bead. Now you'll pick up 4 seed beads, and you'll go across to the first strand, and you'll go in between the crystal and the seed bead, sewing through the tila and the next seed bead. Now you'll need to pick up 4 more seed beads, and you'll go across to the second strand, sew between the crystal and the seed bead, through the tila and the next seed bead. Then you'll pick up 4 more seed beads. Go across to the first strand, sew between the crystal and the seed bead. Through the tila and the next seed bead. And you'll continue this until you reach the end of the bracelet. Once you're done embellishing with your seed beads, you're going to sew up through your tila and seed bead, and we're going to get into position to add on the clasp. You'll sew through the center seed bead at the end of your first strand. Now you'll pick up your wire protector, sew through your wire protector, and you're going to pick up one end of your clasp, sew through the first loop, place the clasp on the wire protector, and now you'll sew back through the middle seed bead, and you'll want to reinforce your clasp at least 3 times by sewing back through the wire protector, the loop on the clasp, the other side of your wire protector, and sew through that center seed bead. And you'll need to tighten it a little bit, and you're going to reinforce it at least 2 more times. Now you're going to need to get into position to add on the other wire protector to your clasp. So you're going to sew down through the seed bead and the tila bead and the next seed bead. Now you'll sew over to the 4 seed beads that connect the 2 strands. Then you'll sew up through the crystal and the seed bead. Sew up through your Tyla and the next 2 seed beads. So you're coming out of the center seed bead of that strand. Now you're ready to add on your clasp. You're going to pick up your wire protector, sew through your wire protector, sew down through the other side, and then you'll sew through your second loop on your clasp. And the clasp will sit inside the wire protector. And then you'll sew through the center seed bead. Then you'll reinforce by sewing through the wire protector and the clasp, down the other side of the wire protector, and through that center seed bead. Now you'll need to take this piece of thread, sew down through your bracelet, put a double knot, feed through, single knot, feed through, and then cut off. So you'll just sew down through your seed beads and your Tyla bead. Sew up under your thread. Make a loop, sew through your loop. Repeat that. Sew under your thread, sew through your loop. Now you've got a double knot. You'll sew down through your seed beads. And you'll sew down through your crystal and your next seed bead. Now you'll put in a single knot or a half hitch. Sew under your thread, sew through your loop, and you've got your knot. Now you're going to sew down through your beads again to get away from your knot. And then you can cut off your excess thread. Now we'll add the clasp to the other side of the bracelet. You're going to remove your stop bead and you'll just sew back through. Now you'll sew through the center seed bead. And you'll pick up your wire protector, sew down the other side, then you'll pick up your clasp and go through the first loop, and you'll put your clasp on your wire protector. Then you'll sew through the center bead again. And you're going to want to reinforce at least 3 times. You'll just sew up through the wire protector, come down the other side, and sew through that center bead again. And now you're ready to take this piece of thread and you're going to feed it down through your bracelet. And you'll tie a double knot by sewing underneath your thread. Make a loop, sew through the loop, and you'll need to repeat that. Sew under your thread, make a loop, sew through your loop, and now you have your double knot. You'll sew down through the seed bead, crystal, and seed bead. And you want to put in another knot just to be secure. Sew under your thread, sew through your loop, and then you're going to sew down through your beads because you don't want to cut off right there near your knot. And then you'll cut off your excess thread. Now you've attached one side. Now you'll have to attach the other side. And you'll have to remove your seed bead. So you'll have to put on your needle and you'll sew back through your seed bead. And you'll remove that stop bead. Now you'll sew through the center seed bead. Pick up your wire protector. Then you'll sew through the loop on the clasp and sit your clasp in your wire protector. And now you'll sew through that center seed bead again. And you're going to want to reinforce at least 3 times. So you'll just sew up through your wire protector. And back down the other side. And then back through the center seed bead. And you'll reinforce, and then you'll sew down through some of your beads. And you're going to tie a double knot. Sew under your thread, sew through your loop, and you'll repeat that. Sew under your thread, sew through your loop. Now you've got your double knot, and you'll sew down through some of your beads. And then you want to place another knot. Sew under your thread, sew through your loop. And you've got your knot. And then you'll sew down through some of your beads. And then you can cut the excess thread off. And now you've got your thread from where we added the center seed beads. And you're going to need to put the needle on the thread. And you're going to want to secure that thread. So you can just put a double knot. Sew under your thread. And sew through the loop. And tighten it. And then do the same thing, sew under your thread. Sew through the loop. And then you'll feed your thread down through the bracelet. And you'll sew underneath because you're going to put a single knot right there. And then you'll sew down through some of your beads. And then you're able to cut off your excess thread. And we're done. And this completes the Blushing Beauty bracelet. Now I'll show you how to add on thread. You'll take your project thread and your new piece of thread. You'll place those two together. You'll loop them around your finger. Bring the two pieces of thread through the loop, and it forms a knot. Then you'll separate the thread, and you'll need to use 2 pairs of pliers so that you can have a firm grasp on your thread. And you're going to pull until the knot reaches the project. Now you have your additional thread, and you have 2 tails. So what you'll need to do is feed the thread through and cut it off, and you'll put on your needle. Then you'll sew through your bead. And you'll sew through a little bit more. Then you'll put a half hitch or a single knot so it's a little bit more secure. You'll just sew up under your thread, make a loop, sew through your loop, and then you'll sew down through your beads. And then you can cut off your excess tail. And you're going to want to do the same thing with the other tail. Feed it through, put in a single knot, feed it through, and cut it off. And now you have your additional thread.